in your money behavior. There's a quote that says the way one uses money is the outward reflection of a person's inward condition. So for us as believers, we believe that God owns it all. It's all his. So everything we have is meant to be done and used in a way that glorifies him. They say God's way is always better than my way, so I give him control. So this also is reflected in timing of when certain things are obtained in our lives. It's also, him allowing him to direct and lead every aspect of even our invest in life, right? It says, I am content with God has provided. It is good to be ambitious. It is good to seek out more. It's good to desire more. But ultimately, it says godliness with contentment is great gain. So while we strive and we work hard, we make sure we do this from a place of contentment. We do it from a place where we're like, okay, God, your timing, your pace, and even if I never obtain these things while I'm on earth, your name will still be praised, your name will still be glorified, and to be your child is enough for me. And it says, I am God's wise manager. Because we are children of God, and because some of us are gifted with different levels of privilege and even resources, we are called to love on each other. We are called to be wise with it. So having these types of knowledge is important. Understanding how to use your money and how to use it well, so you're not just spending it frivolously, is very important because we are God's wise manager. And lastly, I am free to fulfill God's plan for my life and advance his kingdom. As much as your heart desires, because God loves a cheerful giver, we pour all that we have into the kingdom of God. We pour all that we have into the people of God, right? Because that is God's kingdom. These are his children, right? And so this is just some of the fundamentals that we want you to have in your heart, even as we're going through this program, is remembering the most important thing is that God owns it all. So even this knowledge you're going to use in a way, hopefully by the grace of God, that honors God and gives him glory. And with that recap being said, I'm going to introduce our speaker for the day, Ms. Danielle Mitchell. We're excited. She's a realtor with Goldwell Banker Realty in Wayne Urfis, serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area surrounding the mainline suburbs. Danielle originally explored a career in the graphic arts during high school and college, and she later transitioned her career into other functions, highlighting other talents for many years in corporate, serving in roles that include she was an office manager, an accountant, an administrator, and so much more. Outside of her professional career, Danielle serves at her local church, Household of Faith Deliverance Worship in Ardmore, PA, under the leadership of Bishop Michael Brokenborough. She was formerly the head of the media ministry on the ministerial staff, the overseer of the ministry leaders, among many other duties. So she's a woman that loves to serve God, and I mean, she does a lot more than what we are given time to display. And Danielle is a wife and a mother of three beautiful children, and her legacy is to serve God, family, and those she encounters, and essentially just exude the glory of God in everything she does. With that being said, we are super excited for Ms. Danielle Mitchell. Thank you for sharing your talents with us. Thank you so much, and we welcome you. Over to you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you guys so much. Number one, I'm honored to be here. Excited to be here. I was like, oh, they wanted me to present. I'm so excited. So thank you guys so much. Yes, my bio is um a cliff notes of something. Every once in a while I'll be like, I need to start writing down some of the things I'm a part of and involved in, and I do, so I can make sure I'm managing my time well. But nonetheless, in everything that I do, I want to be very much intentional, and I always see a fit for growth, whether I am leading, but most importantly, serving. So I serve in many capacities, because I believe that is a part of success. Quite honestly, it's a part of being able to flourish, whether in business or ministry. So that all that to say, let's get started. So I was trying to make sure that I came up with something. I pretty much followed my traditional home buying presentation. But what I love about this space is that I'm also able to incorporate more of the spiritual aspect of myself, because I think it is so important It's one of the reasons why I got into this business. I honestly became a realtor because I saw the vision God gave me to be an investor, to get into that space. And I was like, well, how can we cut the middleman? I did not intend on being a realtor and helping people in the capacity that I do now. But it was a journey that in which I feel God led me to, and I'm thankful for, because I love what I do. As you saw in my bio, I've done other things, and doing those other things, quite honestly, has served me well to be able to help me be the realtor that I am now, right? So the graphics part, you see the graphics, all that stuff, the administration part, being able to make sure my paperwork when I'm doing deals is done well, helps me. That time management piece, all those things. So I'm excited to do what I do, and I take joy in it. And I think that what helps me in this is that I do take joy in it. And so when I present my stuff or when I'm working with people, I think they feel that I like it. I like what I do, and I like helping those, who allow me to journey with them. Okay. So, home buying presentation. Let's get started. Next slide. All right. So first, I want to talk about why it's important to really buy, right? Let's talk about the difference between renting versus owning, right? So when you rent, you build your landlord's wealth. When you own, you're building your own wealth. And we're going to talk a little bit more about why do people talk about it's building your wealth and what that really means and looks like. To rent, your monthly payment is likely to increase, right? How many have been in an apartment building complex and it's like every 3 months? Up, rent increase, rent increase, rent increase every 2 seconds, every time you sign a lease. The rent continues to go up, right? Your monthly payment when you own is locked in. Now my monthly payment, my mortgage went up, right? But it was due to taxes, and it only went up by $5, right? As opposed to it going up, hundreds of dollars, right, each time. So yes, when you own, your payment will likely, your mortgage will likely increase, right? And it's based upon what changes is your homeowner's insurance. So that's the variable, as well as the taxes in your local municipality. So if your taxes rise or drop, sometimes they do. Sometimes once in a blue moon, and we're depending on where you are, they might fall a little bit, but it will increase that way. But luckily, we are in our earning years. Praise God. So we can continue to cushion those small incremental jumps. Hopefully, a smaller incremental, right? The next one, renting. You may be limited in what you can customize in your home, right? So you can't knock down walls. You can't, create a new kitchen or finish the basement and things like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I personally did it with my rental, but it proved me none, right? I did it because I was there so long and I just wanted to do it. But, it was beneficial during the time that I was there, and that was all, right? I couldn't take it with me. When you own, you have the freedom to customize your living space, and even more importantly, it helps to create equity in your home, right? When you update your home, when you do nice things to it, all that good stuff, it just makes the value of your home continue to thrive, continue to grow, right? And lastly, renting, you will likely pay rent fees and security deposits and all that good stuff. But when you're buying your home, you're paying the down payments and your closing costs. Okay. And at the end of the day, whatever money you put into your house, the beauty of it is that in some way, shape, or form, you're going to get a return on your investment, as opposed to renting for several years. You know, you when you figure how much that rental income or a rental amount is times 12 times 12 years times 20 years, you're paying tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, that's going nowhere, right? That's just wasting away. As opposed to in a house, of course, home values appreciate. Okay, next slide. Why buy? Why buy? Top 10 reasons to buy, to purchase real estate. So number one, home prices tend to rise over time, as I just said. They tend to appreciate. Now, even with the dips and hills and valleys, right? Consistently it appreciated, grows, right? So even if it's a bad time during the real estate market, you just keep what you have. Just keep what you have. That's all. That's just not the time to sell. So even if it's like, oh my goodness, houses, the prices have dropped, which is the complete opposite right now. But just say next week, the housing prices drop, then keep your house. And don't sell it yet if you don't have to, right? And actually go buy some real estate if houses drop that drastically, right? So home prices tend to rise over time, and home is one of the best investments you can make. Number two, you pay less and taxes, and you save money, right? So of course it is a tax benefit, right? You can deduct the interest you pay on your mortgage from your taxable income. I'm going to go a little bit more into a little bit later some of the benefits of home ownership when we talk about investing. Okay. Interest rates are currently low. Now, interest rates have risen, but in comparison to 1980, in comparison to the 1990s, in comparison to the big crash of 07, 08, all that good stuff, where it was. In those times, it was up to 12%, 10%. So we are still on the lower end of the spectrum, even though interest rates have gone up. Now, as low as it was, it did get pretty much before pandemic. The interest rate started to rise close to that 5%, if not at 5%, right? So that's the trajectory we were already on before the pandemic hit. So now we have adjusted and come back to the trajectory we were on before the pandemic hit. Why? Because things are stable. If interest rates were staying low, the interest rates went low to help stabilize, right, the economy, to make sure to prevent something from crashing, right? To prevent a crash from happening in the market. So that's why they went as historically low as they did, right? So when we're talking about, oh, interest rates are going up, yeah, they're going up, but there are people who bought houses at 8% interest rates, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Sorry, I saw the chat pop up. So it's all relative. It is still a great time to buy and get a decent interest rate, right? Most renovations, number four, and appliances upgrades increase home value. It is the small thing, guys. Sometimes as small as painting. If you have decent, cabinets, um, the small thing as updating it by painting them, a more in style color, right? So a lot of people like blue gray or gray color or even white. You can't go wrong with that. Change the fixtures. And when I tell you that helps to draw in people even the more, it's an amazing thing, right? Just paint. People don't understand how long a long way paint can go and creating value to the home, right? Home tends to build equity over time, allowing you the power of borrowing cash for personal and business use. I'm going to go over this a little bit later as well. But when you have an asset, which home is, it is an asset, you can leverage that asset. So that means, so a lot of times people are like for example, I have a neighbor who has a son who's like 20, 19, 20, and he has a great full-time job, worked for the township. He went from part-time to full-time. And, one neighbor was like, neighbor was like, hey, he should buy. And so his mom was like, no, he just needs to get a 1 bedroom and just get out my house. Okay, that's what he needs to do. And the neighbor was like, no. He was like, well, he's not responsible and this, that, and the third, right? And at the end of the day, the benefits for homeowners outweigh benefits for tenants, especially depending on where you live in. Now, out here, Philly can be pretty tenant friendly. But even in that case, if we're talking about a single person, unless you have children, people can kick you out. So if you're talking about being single and it's like, should I rent versus buy? The benefits for you as a homeowner outweigh. There are so many programs for people to keep their home rather than for people, about to be evicted. Now, there are programs for them, but like I said, they're typically like, you know, you got to have kids, that kind of thing, right? Helping families. So, in that scenario, like I said, with my neighbor, it's like, no, even if he messes up, he has a better chance of not losing the home and of not messing up by being a homeowner as opposed to just getting evicted and having it on your credit, right? So moving on, I did number 5. The home will be yours. Number 6, you can do what you want. Number 7, you will have the peace of mind of owning your home. No more worrying about crazy landlord rent increases. There's still, I'm not going to say worry as far as being a homeowner, but there's still responsibility, right? So number 8, pride of ownership gives your family a sense of security and stability. Have as many pets as you want. You can foster some as well. And number 10, you can sell your home when you please, sell your home and avoid paying capital gains tax after selling. You can upgrade into a larger home. Capital gains tax comes in pretty much, depending on how long you stay at the property. But if you stay in there the average time, 5-7 years, you're fine. Okay. Now, what are we going to learn? We're going to go through these different steps of buying a home, right? So number 1, down payment, your credit score, finding a real estate agent. Look no further. Hey guys, I'm here. Number 4, get pre-approved, finding a home, make an offer, having a home inspection, getting a home appraisal, closing the sale, and moving, and you get your keys. That's always the best part. Okay. So, phase number 1, as I like to call it. Let's go through the timeline of buying a home. Okay, so number 1, what encompasses phase 1 is you're researching, right? You're making some decisions, whether you're married, whether you're single. You're like, okay, I want to move. Why do I want to move? Where do I want to move? What makes sense? Do I want a house hack? House hack. We'll go over that later. Do I want to do? You're in the decision making period, right? You're researching. What do I need? How much savings do I need? What does my credit score need to be at, right? So essentially, let's go over phase 1. Credit score. Credit score needs to be. Now, hold on. Can you go to the next slide for a second? Because I forget. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So phase 1, you're doing your research, you're doing your credit, and your credit needs to be at your best bet, at least 620, right? That's your starting point. You have to be at least 620. Now, could you be at 580 and get pre-approved? Yeah, you can at some places. But guess what? You're putting down 10% and you're going to get the highest interest rate available, right? So you really, of course, I always say with credit, the higher, the better, right? We all know the benefits of having higher credit is that you're getting a better interest rate. Now, the good thing about buying a house is that it's not like getting a credit card or getting a car loan, car lease, where the pendulum for interest rates swings so big, right? So it's not like it's the difference between getting a 10% interest rate or a 2. It's not that big when you're getting a mortgage. The pendulum doesn't swing that far, right? But even still, those not points, but percentages, those quarter percentages, they can make a difference. They can save you a couple of dollars, right? So it's still important for your credit to be as high as possible. And 620 is a great start. I say the sweet spot is 680. 680 and up is the sweet spot. Why? Because now you're able to not just qualify for an FHA loan, which is great, right? FHA loan is fine because it's 3.5% down, um, and it's great for home buyers who need that 3.5% down and don't have any other options, right? But at 680 and up, you get options, right? So now you're able to get a conventional loan. So if you're able to get a conventional loan, why is that good? Conventional loan is a bit more when it comes to the appraisal and it comes to the lenders lending you money. They're a bit more lax in their standards and guidelines. FHA is a bit more strict. So if they see a banister that is not there, they're going to make the seller get that banister in there, right? If the spindle thingies are too far apart, hey, you need to fix that, right? It's not a bad thing, right? You may say to yourself, well, that's not bad. If it's, if certain things are wrong with the property and they need to fix it, that's not a bad thing. Yes, in this competitive seller's market, it's not a buyer's. It's in the seller's favors. Why? It's called supply and demand. Inventory is low, demand is high. So therefore, it is a seller's market. Okay. So in that case, when they have 5, 10, 15, I saw somebody receive 40 offers on a property. And these people are deciding which ones they want to pick. They're going to go with the conventional loan, purchase the FHA loan, right? So now cash is king. That's another problem, So a lot of times cash is king. So that's what's, beating out people too. But if we're just talking, comparing loans, right? A person is going to say, and a realtor is going to advise their client, they're going to advise their seller, hey, the conventional is probably the better way to go, right? Because we know this, we about it, right? Sorry, my speaker stopped. So if you're at that 680, if you're at that sweet spot with the conventional loan, what's also beneficial as well is that you can get a grant. If you're a first-time home buyer, a lot of these grant programs, especially the one that's out now called the PHFA K-FIT grants, it's a fantastic one. It pays 5% towards your home. It gives you 5% towards your 5% of the purchase price, excuse me, and grant money. And there's no cap on it. So the Philly Home grant, which just came back, gives you 6%, but up to $10,000. Okay. But this PHFA one gives you 5%, no cap on it. So whatever the home purchase is, they're going to give you 5% of that. So for a program like that, you're able to qualify if your credit score, one of the criteria is at 660, I believe. Actually 660. But 680, like I said, opens you up to get a conventional loan. Okay. So savings. I always say you want to save at least 7 to 10% of whatever purchase price target you have. If that is $100,000, then you need to have $7,000 to $10,000. Now, when we're talking about savings, the higher the better, the same as credit. The more you save, the better it is. But I never want people to feel like, oh my goodness, I need to save, a bajillion $1,000s, right? Thousands of dollars. No, but it also depends on your price point. Now, I gave you an example for $100,000 house, right? But if you're out here and you can get a $500,000 house, then that 7 to 10% looks different, right? That 7 to 10%, is looking at least, 50,000, right? So, you have to understand that the higher the price point, the more you need to save. Okay. So now what's great is there is seller's assist. There is, which is a seller's credit that you can get. Yes, you can get that. It's out here. Now, many professionals will say, seller's credit, that's dead. Many lenders will say seller's credit, that's dead. Well, I get my clients seller's assist. So not all, because not all need them, but I get my client seller's assist. I had a client and she just closed and she walked away with money. Okay. She didn't need to bring money to the table. She walked away with a check when she bought her house. Now, don't get it twisted. That's not everybody. So I don't want everybody to think that's only happened to me twice in my career of doing this. But she was able to get seller's assist and she was able to get a grant, right? And she did pay for her some earnest money deposit and stuff like that, but I'll get into that next. So, important thing research, important thing credit, important thing savings. Okay, next one. Phase two, me, realtor. Hey guys. Getting pre approved. Okay, so typically when I have consultations with people, I ask them, hey, all right, you're looking to buy. Um, do you work? Have you worked consistently for the past 2 years? Have you, what's your credit score? How much savings do you have? They're going to, I'm going to ask those questions. The lender is going to ask you some of the same questions, right? I ask those questions so I make sure that, hey, the next phase is to send you to a lender. Or maybe the next phase is to send you to a lender, understanding that you may need to work on some things, right? But either way, you're going to be asked those questions. What do you need to give to the lender? 2 months of bank statements, 2 years of tax returns, 2 pay stubs. Okay. So those are some of the things that you will need to give to the lender in order for you to get pre-approved. All right. If you need a grant, if you need help with a grant, or you need help by utilizing a grant, we're going to talk through that. Now, I just told you at least 2 of them. If you're trying to buy in Philly, there is a Philly home grant. It's an easy program to get into. That's what makes it great. That's what made them run out of money the first time around. So they brought it back. If you are if you're in Pennsylvania in general, not just in Philly, but if you're, just in PA, the PHFA grant, like I talked about earlier. If you're in other states, municipalities, different municipalities have different grants. Different states, call the PHFA K-Fit grant different things, right? So, just work through which ones are available to you in your local area. Credit for different loans. I just, kind of went over that. Baseline is the 620. To get most grants, that's 680. To get into a conventional loan, have that be an option, 680. Okay. And the higher, the better. All right. Next one. All right. After you get pre-approved, after you get pre-approved, after you get pre-approved, then home shopping. A lot of people mess up. They start home shopping and doing all the other stuff, and want to see property. It's like, you pre-approved? No. Okay, well, you want to get pre-approved first? I've had people fight me on that. Like, no, I don't want to. Well, you need to. Why don't people running my credit? Well, when people, I do want to say this. When you are shopping for a home, when you are looking for lenders, shopping for mortgages does not hit your credit the way just randomly going on a random website because you want to get a credit card for, Target. Right? It's completely different. The credit bureau recognizes that, number one, you're trying to do something amazing, which is buy a house. You're trying to get a mortgage. They also recognize that it's your right as a consumer to shop for a lender. You don't have to take the first one, right? So it is okay to go through more than one. Your credit will not change at all. If it does, it may be by a point or 2. And I've heard this from a lender taking credit classes, right? So it might change a point or 2, but it's not going to be some drastic 10, 20, 50,000, point drop. No, you can shop for lenders. You can go ahead and do that. You'll be just fine. Okay. but it is important to get pre-approved. Why do you need to get pre-approved first? Because number one, you need to know your budget. You may have an idea of what your budget is in your head, but on paper, based on your debt to income ratio, right, that may not be the case, right, or it may be more, right? So it really just depends. So that's why you need to know. You also, because it is a seller's market, as I said before. So you have to be able to pull the trigger when you see something that you like, and you cannot be, there are no 2 days, 3 days to wait. there, there really is none. Some people are like, yeah, the market's slowing down. It is. By way of slowing down, are we talking about is instead of maybe some places getting 25 offers, they're getting 7? That's what the slowdown is. So even if you hear the slowdown, it's slowing down, quote unquote, but not to the point where it's still not competitive, right? It's still going to be competition out there. Okay. As I said there. Um, Also, we're going to submit an offer when you find something that you like, when you know you're feeling all the goosebumps, right? We were going to go ahead, submit that paperwork. You're going to submit what's called an earnest money deposit if your offer gets accepted, right? So that is one, I say at this point, to 5. So, and this, so typically is 1 to 3% of the purchase price. So if it's $100,000 purchase price, it's $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. But quite honestly, I've had clients put down between 3 to 5, or not. I don't even go by that number at this point, because why? Because if you're putting in an offer and you're in competition with other people, sometimes putting down a strategy is putting down more earnest money deposits than, trying to put down $2, right? So sometimes putting down more. I had somebody um, put in on a listing that I had, and they came in with $20,000 down payment, or earnest money deposit. Excuse me. Those are two different things, by the way. Earnest money deposit, and I'm gonna tell you in a second. And I was like, well, that's fantastic, right? They're serious about getting this property, because guess what? Why does that show that they're serious? Because if you back out of the deal, the seller would be entitled to keeping your earnest money deposit, right? So when you put down more, they're saying, hey, we mean business, and I have no intentions of backing out of this deal, you know. At least not by way of, just because the wind blew, right? There are parameters in which you can back out of a deal. I'll talk about that in 2 seconds. But difference between earnest money deposit is that's your good faith money when you go to put in your offer. It is credited from your closing costs. So if you put down 5,000, your closing cost is going to be 5,000 less. That EMD. Your down payment has to do with your mortgage. Okay, so down payment, 3.5% down payment, 5% down payment, 10% down payment. That's what that has to do with, and that is in your closing costs. Okay, at the end, when it's time to get the keys. All right. So paperwork, one of which is the agreement to sell. That's the contract. When you say under contract, that's the contract they're talking about, the agreement to sell. And when both parties sign, the buyer and the seller, it's called the executed agreement to sell. So that's the contract. Let's talk about that real quickly. Two things that can allow you to back out of an agreement to sell, or out of the contract, or get your earnest money deposit back. If your finances fall through from your lender, and you have checked on the box that this sale of this home is contingent upon my financing, you can get your earnest money deposit back. If you have inspections and you make it contingent upon you getting inspections, that's when you can get your earnest money deposit back. If you're like, nah, I'm good, I don't want it no more. If it does not appraise, and both buyer and seller cannot agree on the appraisal amount, that is an opportunity for you to get your earnest money deposit back. Another one, is if you don't turn in your earnest money deposit. That's the way you can get out the contract. And you definitely need not paying the earnest money deposit. So because you didn't turn it in. That's another way as well. So some people's strategy is they kind of hold out as much as possible, but it's a gamble because both parties can get out of it, right? So we can go to the next slide. So the next one is okay. So pretty much this is the process of all the brackets. Oh, okay, good. I thought that one was there. All right. Wait, it went back. Okay. So after you go under contract, you're going to schedule a home inspection. As I just talked through inspection contingency, let's talk about it. So an inspection, you're going to have your regular home inspection. That is one check, one thing that you can do, one type of inspection that you can do. Of course, that checks everything in regards to the house, from the rooter to the tutor, from the roof to the basement, to the outside, to the electrical, to the plumbing. Now, they're not tearing down walls. They're not tearing down walls. At the end of the day, they're inspecting what they see, right? And they're going to do their due diligence and check through your HVAC system and stuff like that. But for the most part, nobody knows everything that's going on with the house, but it gives you a good idea, right? So home inspection is fantastic because you get to learn about your house. Now, in this climate, again, people are waiving inspections or inspection contingencies, right? Because they want to secure the house. A lot of people waive inspections, they waive appraisal contingencies as well. They waive all that stuff. You Even if you waive your inspection contingency, you should still get an inspection done. Because you need to, if you feel comfortable, it's a newer home, it's an updated home, blah, 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 whatever the case is, you should still get one done so you can make sure that you know about your house and know what you're getting into, right? So number one, home inspection, you just want to do a regular one. Next one you want to do is your termite inspection. You need to check for any buggies, some termites fly. So you gotta check. I feel like most if it, I want to say, oh, thank you. She got me on my time. All right. So I want to say, or is it okay? Yes. So what I typically do, I will send a list of home inspectors that you can use. So these are people now. These are independent people, right? I don't get kickbacks from these inspectors. So I'm not, I get nothing, right? So these are just inspectors I know that can do the job and that can do it well. I do have a favored inspection company that I use because I know they do the job and I know that they do it well, and they are reasonably priced as well. And I just like how they do business. But I send them a list, but I also send, and I have a whole paragraph that I send. I also send the website where you can look up your own home inspection company. Okay. And some buyers, they come because they know people, or stuff like that, or they, because of their job, they might know home inspection companies, and sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't. But nonetheless, it is of your own choosing. The average person does not know, a home inspector or home inspection company. So that's why I provide, a few options. After that, termites. So you get the termite done. Termite inspection by itself may cost between 90 and 120. You get your radon done. Radon is a gas that emotes from the ground, particularly the basement. And so we are around it. We inhale it all the time, but they come to check and make sure that the levels are, not bad levels. It's not, something that's life threatening, right? So that is also between no, 90 to 120. So those are three separate inspections you need to get: home inspection, termite, radon. You can get others, but to each there is an additional cost. So if you want to spend a bajillion dollars getting the house inspected, you certainly can. You know, that's your prerogative, right? But those are the absolute most, recommended ones that I suggest. And the inspection cost for all three can run you between um, $600 to $800. That's for all three. So those are upfront costs you have to consider, as well as, like we talked about, is earnest money deposit. Okay. Schedule an appraiser. So your lender is going to get the executed agreement itself from me, the contract. I'm going to forward them. Asbestos, you can get done. Again, that's just a separate cost, but you can get that done. So schedule an appraisal. That is going to be scheduled by your lender. So they have to choose appraisers that won't be biased as well. They don't work for the company. They are also independent. I think it's kind of like on a lottery system where it's just, the computer, when they do it, it chooses for an appraisal to go out. Appraiser, they're the ones who are going to make sure that the house is worth the sell price. So they're the ones that make sure that the house is worth the sell price. They're making sure it's worth the sell price because the lender is not going to lend you more. No, more. Yes, lend you more than what the house is worth. Did I say it right? I think I did. They're not going to go past it. So if the house is appraises at $80,000, but you have a purchase price of $100,000, guess what? The lender's only going to lend you $80,000, and you need to come up with the 20. Okay, so that's what the appraisals are for. But you do have an appraisal contingency that if it does not appraise at the right amount, that's when you negotiate. You negotiate with the seller. So that most times the seller just comes down to whatever the appraisal is. Um, and other times that does not happen, and you might have to, come up with some money. And if you don't have the money to come up, with it, then you gotta get out of the deal. Gotta terminate the contract. Okay. And you see there, I say negotiate because those are the times when you do negotiate. Oh, if something happens in the time of, so if you get an inspection done, and at every inspection is going to be something that needs to be fixed. I don't care if it's a new build. It's just what it is. You have that time after you get that inspection done. It's 5 days to submit a buyer reply to inspection, which lists the items that you want fixed. Fixed, not created. If it's an unfinished basement, you can't say, "Hey, I want y'all to finish the basement." No, it is it is fixes. Okay. Also, don't request. Oh, if the inspector says, "Oh, this is not the best pipe for this plumbing," you need to you should replace this with this kind of pipe. You you know you can put it on the buyer's reply to inspection, but it likely will not get fixed because it's not broken, right? So it's for things where it's, something's not working properly, something's broken. Okay. Change in terms, addendum. Sometimes, oh, that's the paperwork you would use for the buyer's reply to inspection. Okay. If appraisers come in more, no, they cannot. That is the beauty. I oftentimes have clients who so the question was, if it appraises for more, can the seller raise the price? No, you are locked into whatever that purchase price is. So you can go into a property, have 3,000 in equity, instant equity, 5,000 in instant equity, 10,000 in instant equity. You know what I mean? My client was freaking out because we went in 20,000 over the asking price, because that's how it is out here. And she was like, "Oh my God, what are the cops? What are the this? I said, "Don't worry, appraisals save us." I said, "So whatever it is." And the appraisal came in $3,000 over the purchase price. But guess what? We get it for? We get it for the purchase price, right? And the sellers, 9 times out of 10, the sellers don't know what the appraisal is. All they need to know is that it appraised. So when you say it appraised, that means that at the very least appraise for the purchase price. That's all they need to know. They don't get to know the the appraisal price, value. That's the better word. Okay, next slide. All right, phase 5, closing. So pretty much between when you're done the inspection portion, when you're done the appraisal portion, you'll hear less from me, unless we have to go back, and you're going to be hearing more from your lender. Okay, when you become under contract and go through the process, and less, from me, because my portion as far as the house is done, right? And so you're going to be hearing more so from your lender. Listen to your lender. Listen to them. If they send you stuff, sign it. Now, if you don't understand it, that's fine. You want to not sign it before you understand it, or if it's looking crazy, that's fine. But just understand that in this process, if you want to keep the ball moving, you got to answer calls, you got to sign paperwork, you need to do what you have to do. I also want to say, in the steps with the lender, you're going to get pre-approved first, and then you're going to need what's called a mortgage commitment. That kind of happens around the time you get your appraisal, and kind of negotiate and do the inspection contingency and all that other stuff. So you get your mortgage commitment. What does that mean? That means that the lender say, hey, I'm committed to you, right? I'm committed to you, okay? But here are some other things that we have to flush through before you get your clear to close. The third phase in the lending process is getting your clear to close, okay? That is the best part. Now, in these phases, your file is going through an underwriter. Sometimes with pre-approvals, it goes through underwriters. It's supposed to. Pre-approved versus pre-qualified, those are two different things. Pre-approved suggests that it went through an underwriter first. But definitely it goes to an underwriter. Underwriter, they are the gatekeepers, nameless, faceless gatekeepers. Okay, you cannot rub them the wrong way, because they would take your file and shred it. They would throw it in the trash with no remorse. Okay, so it's very important to make sure, getting with lenders that know what they're doing. Some people want to do banks. Oh, I got Navy Federal, I got, Wells Fargo, gang, gang. I got Bank of America. They gonna do right by me. They will not. They will not. They listen. I had a consultation with a buyer the other day, and she let me know, hey, I tried buying a few years back. I use this particular bank. We got to the finish line. She was under contract, got to the finish line. The underwriter rejected her file, and everybody went ghost. Everybody went ghost. Nobody returned her phone calls. All of a sudden, she's out of contract for the house. I said, what? They will drop you like a bad habit, okay? If you can't get settlement, they'll drop you like a number one. Let's start with, they won't do their due diligence to make sure that you have a clean file, that there's no problems, and they will drop you like a bad habit once they realize there are some problems. Okay, they don't care. A mortgage broker, lender, they are like me. They're commission based. They want to make sure the deal closes. They're going to do their due diligence. Now, that doesn't mean everybody's great, right? But at least the people that I recommend and work with, they close deals. And that's what you want. You want people who are going to do their due diligence to make sure that you're set up for success. Now, stuff happens, right? But we don't want to happen in that way, right? So I did want to say that. Closing, you get your final docs, you get your mortgage confirmation commitment. What's also going on in this process is the title company, they do background checks on you, make sure everybody is there, who they are, who they say they are. We do our final walkthrough. If you had an inspection contingency and they made some repairs before the final walkthrough, we do the, the repairs and inspection walk through pretty much to make sure everything's right. And then settlement day, you get your keys. Okay, go to the next one. Takeaways. You would think that my takeaways would be all the stuff I just went over. It's really not. It's really not. It's not that, because you're going to forget most of what I said when you're in the thick of buying a house if you have not before. And even if you do it again, it's not like you remember, your first, home buying process. It's just like, you just kind of like, whatever, all right, sign this, do this, whatever. So it's not like you have it down to a science most times, right? So the takeaways really is, it's a marathon, not a sprint. The biggest thing that a challenge that I face when dealing with people out of the technical stuff is really people's emotions, people's anxieties, people's fears, right? It can be very triggering because real estate, buying your home, for most people, if they don't become investors, it's going to be the biggest purchase of their life. So understanding that it's a marathon, not a sprint, is important. There are some people, after one day of showing, we get them under contract. There are some people, it's months, almost a year before they get under contract, depending on what they're looking for, right? The home buying process, can go, I don't know what I did there, to go very fast or very slow. Be patient and take everything in stride. You cannot fall in love to the point of, despair if you don't get it with every house. You got to keep perspective, right? Understand that, be hopeful, but balance that hopefulness out with understanding that, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Emotions, you're going to be, it's excitement, it's nervousness, it's fear, it's anxiety, it's anger, it's frustration, it's joy, it's gladness, it's all these things, right? Understand that you're likely going to feel them all, okay? And that's the biggest thing most people are not prepared for when it comes to home buying, especially their personal home. We're not talking about investment properties for this portion, but that's most likely what they come up against. Trust your realtor. Your realtor and your home buying team, that includes your lender, that includes the title company, are all here to walk you through each step of the process. Balance going with your instincts and leaning on them as the experts. You have to balance those two things, right? Next one. Paperwork. These are just some of them. Consumer notice, buyer agency contract. The buyer agency contract is a contract to sign up with your realtor, okay, to be under contract with them. Buyer's financial info is a snapshot of your finances. Okay. Next one. Real estate investing 101. Next. Let's talk about it. All right. Why invest? Top reasons to invest in real estate: cash flow, tax breaks, and deductions. Let's pause right there for a second. This country, the laws are made for those who do stock, have businesses, and do real estate. That is why there are tax breaks and deductions. The lawmakers, your congressmen, your senators, all the way up, all have businesses, companies, stocks, bonds. This is what they have, right? So, of course, they're going to make things that benefit them. They're going to create laws and policies that benefit them. A lot of times, as regular folk, we get mad, like, it's not fair. No, we just got to play the game. We got to play the game. And the game is rigged. Yes, so we have to learn the game. This is, ladies and gentlemen, a part of the game. This is why you invest. This is why just having a regular 9 to 5 job, nothing wrong with that. but it won't lead you to wealth. It won't lead you to funnels. It won't lead you to something that's going to continue to build upon itself. It's not going to do it, because this is not what the lawmakers and policy people, is not what they do. They be having their little senator job, but they be doing everything else. Okay? So I want to make it clear why there are tax breaks and deductions, because it is for their best interest, not for the average American person's best interest. So this is why you got to learn the game and just play it. That's why. Okay? Appreciation. As I said before, real estate, it grows. It grows. Okay, if it's a bad year to sell, that's fine. Try to wait till next year if you can help it, right? Portfolio diversification, that's great. So real estate leverage and competitive risk adjusted returns. Next one. All right, finance options. When we're talking about investing in money, or sorry, investing in real estate, what do you need to do? How do you kind of get started? Okay, here are some financial options for you. Number one, you need capital. A HELOC, home equity loan, right? That you can cash out. If you are already a homeowner and you've been there for a little bit and you want to take out some cash in order to start investing, that's a great way. That's why there's beauty in owning your home. Because guess what you can do? You can leverage what you have to get what you want. That's beautiful. You can't do that when you're renting, right? You can use your savings. You can use retirement fund. Now, this might be tricky, but if you're using it to be seed for it to grow and to make money, now you can talk to your financial advisor and all that other stuff, but I'm just saying, especially if I feel like a lot of people in here, millennials or younger, whatever like that, I'm just saying, you have some time to build some things if you do it right, is all. Lines of credit, or use somebody else's retirement fund. No, lines of credit. I'm kidding. Lines of credit. And you can use multiple lines of credit if you have great credit and stuff like that. You can start pulling and drawing. It is a real way for you to get started and collect some, so you can get started in there. Groups of friends. That's why I say use somebody else's retirement money. Listen, it's a group here. There's a group of people, groups of friends. This is how people get started. A lot of times I feel like it's a lot of brown people in here. A lot of times we struggle with this, coming together and utilizing the resources that are in our very sphere of influence, right? So people do it a lot. So that's one thing to consider as well. Hard money lender. Why do you need capital? Because if you're going to use a hard money lender, you need to put down a certain amount of money. Okay, let's talk through what a hard money lender is. Well, we can talk to both. Hard money private lender. So pretty much they're the same, but they're not. What can be the distinction between them is that a hard money lender is an entity that is not like a traditional lender, right? Don't have the traditional lender or lending guidelines. And so, their interest rate is going to be different. It's pretty much like a short-term loan, short-term bridge loan, and everything like that. And it's usually an organization. This is like literally all they do is they fund, projects. A private lender can be, a millionaire friend, that's a private lender. A millionaire friend who's like, hey, oh, you seem to be knowledgeable in this investment stuff. I'm gonna give you money. I'm gonna just, fund what you're doing and I'm gonna give you, give me a 12% return, or I'm gonna give you this interest rate, whatever the case is. You work out whatever that deal looks like. And so that could be a private lender. Okay, commercial lender. You go to a mortgage company that does commercial lending. Okay. And what you're putting down is generally 20%. For hard money and private lenders, you may need to bring, depending on the program, 10 to 20%. Commercial lenders, I'll say you can probably bring 10 to 20% for them. It really just depends on that lender. If you're a newbie, you're probably going to pay the 20%. For hard money, there are some that's as low as 10%. Some do 15, which is really good. Um, and a traditional lender. So a traditional lender is if like residential, if you're buying, a residential home, that is helpful for next slide, house hacking. So if you are single, a couple, whatever you are, doesn't matter. House hacking is great because you can get a traditional mortgage, that we talked about earlier, home buying, because a traditional mortgage where you can put down that 3.5, that 3%, that 5% down, in some cases, and secure a property up to 4 units. So that's fantastic. So you can get a 4 unit, a 3 unit, um, a 2 unit, meaning duplex, triplex, or 4 unit, and live in there for a year or so. And then, go get another one or leverage that one or do whatever you want, right? So, house hacking is a really, really great way to get started, to get your feet wet into the investment space. Rental properties or buy and holds. Some people, get properties to rent them out, which is fantastic. Um, you can get a distressed property, fix it up, rent it out, right? Then you get it appraised and you can pull out that money that after you fixed it, what it appraised for, pull that money out to fund the next project. Okay. House flipping. House flipping, of course, you can get a home, fix it up, put it on the market. You got $50,000 in your pocket, right? House flipping is great for building capital. So that you can do house flip projects and build a pool of $100,000, and that $100,000 you're just recycling. You're adding to it and recycling it for projects, right? Or you can just do one or two projects and that's fine too. Or have one or two rental properties and that's fine too. Whatever it looks like. Real estate investment trust. This is if you're in the stocks and you're like, yeah, if you're in the stocks and you're like, I'll just, you I'll got some Amazon stock, I'll just get some real estate stock. And I'm fine with that. That's a possibility as well. Real estate investment groups are ideal for people who want to own real estate without the hassles of running it. Okay. So that's a great thing. Also, again, groups. You can have one person leading the charge and you just put your, $10,000 in there and it's getting recycle as well as growing at the same time. Okay. Next one. That's it. That's me. Screenshot that. As partner if you want to. We're gonna have. Am I all right on my time? We got time for questions. Okay, good.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. We covered so much ground. Thank you so much. All right, so we're just gonna do a quick question and answer session. And I'm just gonna read off the questions. And if we have time, put your questions in the chat. I will can still go over them, but I do have a few that we have already added. So first question says, how long is a pre-approval valid for?
I believe typically they're valid for 90 days, but it doesn't matter because even if you're looking for a house, they already have your information. They might do, if it expires, they might do a kind of a soft, pulling your credit or something like that, just to make sure it's still where it's supposed to be. But in general, like I've had people, looking for months and months and months, and you don't necessarily, unless you just stop looking altogether, you don't necessarily have to like update it every 3 months or something. It's just you just continue to look, continue, I'm continuing to talk to your lender to be like, hey, I need a pre-approval for blah 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 address and stuff like that. So it's fine.
Okay, awesome. And then next question says, does earnest money deposit become a part of the down payment, or is it different money that's, being used?
It is different. So down payment has to do with your mortgage company, and that is the 3.5%. So you're talking about FHA loans at 3.5% down. That 3.5% of whatever you're borrowing is wrapped into your closing costs. It's a part of your closing costs. Your earnest money deposit that you put down up front at the time of you going under contract for a property, that is credited from your closing costs. So let's say your closing cost is $10,000. You put down earnest money deposit of $3,000. Well, you're going to need to come to the table with $7,000.
Okay, follow-up question to that is earnest money straight cash? Or like, can it be credit or
no.
other options, I guess?
No, it has to be definitely cash. Definitely, I mean, it's not, don't bring out a wad of ones or something, but it needs to be your bank account. Oh, speaking of which, if you have cash on hand, because I know, we got some of my Nigerian family in here and stuff like that, and people be getting married and be having cash, put it in your bank account ASAP. Okay? Do not. When you're going to buy a house, they need to be able to know where your funds have come from. That is a huge part. There are so many people I know that's sitting on stacks of money but cannot get a house, or at least through a lender, because it's like, well, where that money come from? There's no trail for it. So you want to make sure that you're putting and that you have your money in a bank account. EMD, they're going to need a cashier's check. Some people use personal check, but typically you want to do like a bank check or something like that, because the lender has to see that money come out of your accounts. If you got various ones, they have to see it.
Okay, thank you. Next question says, when you're selling, this was a follow-up question to Imani's question in the chat. She said, when you're selling a house, do you get it appraised to figure out what to sell it for?
You can. So typically, if I'm selling your house, but any realtor, they're going to do what's called a CMA, a comparative market analysis, which is just saying what the value of your home is. So what I do is, I go ahead and look up the houses that sold in your area, and that closed in your area, to see and determine how much the house could go for, what the true, and based on the condition of it as well. So a realtor could definitely do that. Most times we're pretty spot on. You know what I mean? We're pretty spot on. Now the other side to that is that, again, because the market is so competitive, that it's probably going to go over even, a comp, comparable home sold in your area, even if it's by $5,000-$10,000. But it doesn't mean we don't price it right. I'm a firm believer in pricing something correctly, and just letting the people do the rest. Let them duke it out. So you can do it. But you don't. It's not necessarily necessary unless the inventory is low for comps for your particular property. I don't think you need it for a traditional, sell or home. Now, for commercial property, some people have like, a triplex, and it's got a, mixed use on there with the business at the bottom. A lot of times people will get an appraisal for that, because it's not many of those things selling in the area. So
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. If I don't have enough money for closings, another question, can I borrow money from my cousin Bonquita 1 month before closing, or okay, and then I'll ask a follow-up after that. It was the question that was written.
there is something called a gift, like you can receive gift funds. But what happened is, if Bonquita or a parent or auntie or something like that, and you need that help, it's like a gift thing you kind of fill out, and then that person, they will have to see their statement to make sure they know where their money came from, and
But
it's typically fine.
Go ahead. I was going to say, so the other part of the question was, can it be 1 month before closing?
Yeah. Again, it will just be considered a gift. It can't just show up in your bank account and it's like, well, what the heck is it? The nameless, faceless underwriters, they'll kick you out of here. They'll kick you out. So when you're trying to get your clear to close or mortgage commitment and something like that happens, it's like, no, where did this money come from? They're going to start asking those kinds of questions. And it's best to be upfront with your lender. It is so important. A lot of times people, will do things or, won't want to share. It is so important. Even if you're changing jobs, like some people won't take a job or change a job. You can change jobs, but we got to talk about it first. Let's just talk through it and make sure you have everything you need, right? So it's important to communicate with your lender. That's what I always tell people. I'm like, hey, that might be okay, but check with your lender. If you start moving money around and you're under contract, check with your lender. If you get a new job opportunity, all that other stuff, talk with your lender. That's the important thing. To make sure that you don't, not have a contract no
more. Someone asked in the chat as well, so would she need proof that it's a gift?
No, not necessarily. They would just have to fill out something. And usually lenders will have their own like gift letter or, kind of thing. So, yeah.
Oh, awesome. And then someone asked, can one borrow from 401k? And is it advised to do so?
To do what?
To borrow from 401k.
If it's about, yeah, I've known clients to do that. Absolutely. I've known clients to do that. Now, don't have that thing sitting in there and talk about stuff. Yeah, I got money. It's in there. No, because it takes time. It has to hit your bank account. So make sure you already have that, ready. But I've definitely had clients who take it away. And again, it's an investment, right? So it's not like you're trying to take out money to, throw it to the wind. So, you can always talk with the financial advisor, but I've definitely had clients who have borrowed against their 401k to be able to purchase their home. And again, that home is going to appreciate. You'll be able to, borrow against your own home, put that money back, do all kinds of stuff. So.
Awesome. So someone was asking if you could elaborate a little bit more on using a line of credit. And I think you started touching on that, but how you can use a line of credit to get a home.
Right. So the line of credit is used for whatever percentage you need to pay if you are trying to do a commercial lender, particularly a hard money lender, right? So if you had to put up 15% of your own money, and it works better with the hard money lender and if you're trying to redo it, so if you're trying to buy a jacked up property, get it fixed, right? In order to put it on the market as a flip or even to keep it, right? What the hard money lender is going to pay for is for the acquisition of the property, which is to purchase it, as well as the construction on that property, okay? You need money in order to make up the difference because based on their, whether it's 10% or 15% or 20%. You need that money. So the lines of credit is going towards that money. Okay. Also, when you're doing something where you have to pay for construction and everything like that, you're working on a project, you want to have some extra as well, because sometimes the hard money, when they give you the draw, they call it a draw. You draw money from them. Sometimes it's not as fast as the project would demand, right? For the contractors. So having some lines of credit in that case helps, because then you like, all right, I'm gonna just pay the plumber the 5,000 or whatever, so we can keep the project moving. But the hard money lender's draw is coming up, and I'm going to get reimbursed that anyway. I hope that makes sense.
All right. Another question was, how soon after you purchase a home, like your first home or other home, can you purchase another home? Is there a timeline?
Nope. If you got coins like that, go for it. I
Straight to the
mean,
point.
I mean, some lenders might say, I would say maybe a few months, maybe 3 months or so, but you should be fine.
Awesome. And then these other questions I think are pertaining to investment properties. So should you invest on your name, or should you invest with your LLC?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a good question. Now, I don't know. I can't say I know the answer for if you're doing a commercial one. And commercial just means that you are getting an investor loan, so you are not staying at property. Okay, so that's essentially what that is. I don't know for that. What I do know, if you're trying to use hard money, you have to have an LLC. You have to have one. They will, if you go to apply for a hard money loan, they're going to take, essentially they want to take you as a joke. I'm like, this person does not know what they're doing. They out here with their government name. No. So, yes, you should do it. Now, if you're just trying to, if you've got your own thing going and you don't need hard money and stuff like that, I know investors that have built enough capital where they just use cash, right? Which is fine, and they can use their name and stuff like that. But, tax benefit purposes, having an LLC, doing it under a business, write it off a business. Again, these things work for the policy and lawmakers. They do things under LLCs, right? And when you do it under LLCs and businesses, it is better. It's more beneficial. So of course, doing it under a LLC is the better way, especially if you're trying to use a hard money lender.
And then follow-up question to that is,
or
let's say,
I want to say that too.
Yeah, S corp. Let's say like a person has an estate, like a family estate or something like that. Would it be better to invest through the estate or through the LLC?
I don't know.
That's fair.
I don't have none of my tax friends on here, so I don't know. I can't.
All right,
say.
cool. That's fine. We can move forward. And then another question says, how long does the money have to be there to use it? Oh, I think this is referring to the gift. I don't remember who asked this question.
Again, the gift you can do, and I don't advise it, but you can do in the middle of the transaction. So if this is before you're under contract, because they look at 2 months prior to, I would say 2 months, maybe 3. So by the time you go to get pre-approved and it's been 2 or 3 months, you should be okay. You should be okay. So if it's been 2 or 3 months, and then it's like now you're going to go get pre-approved, you should be fine, because by the time you find something, they shouldn't need that far back in order to close out your file.
Okay. I'm gonna try to get a follow-up on that one, but next question says, so given the earnest money and down payment, should I save 2 times or 3 times that? So I guess the earnest money and down payment, or exactly what I need?
Like I said, I always say 7 to 10% of the purchase price. So if the houses you're looking for are 250, then 7 to 10% of that. If it's 300, 7 to 10% of that. And that's based on pretty much 3.5% down. If you do a conventional loan and you're a first-time home buyer, you can qualify for 3% down.
Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna open it up really quickly. We have a couple more minutes. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to unmute or pop it in the chat real quick. And then we have wonderful Miss Danielle here to answer good questions for us.
Yeah, I wanted you to elaborate on the line of credit a little bit more because so are you saying that if someone doesn't have as much money saved, that essentially they could make up that difference by getting a cheaper home that is maybe more of a fixer-upper and essentially being able to finance more so they could, get that home and have some, some things done to the home and essentially because it'll be a cheaper home to purchase. So is that what you mean? Just wondered if you
So
could just
lines of credit, if you're an investor, so that's what that's for. If you're an investor and you don't have cash, right? You don't have, $50,000 saved to get started in investing. It is a way to get started by using lines of credit. Because a lot of people will say, oh, I want to get into investing, but I need money. I don't have no money, right? But, we've been talking about financial literacy and stuff like that. If you got some good credit, you can get some lines of credit, right? That will be the capital that you need to start the investing, right? And then when you start the investing, now you got that cash flow coming in where now if you build enough cash flow coming in or do enough projects, now you don't need to use all those lines of credit because you done built your cash capital now that you can start recycling and building on. That makes sense?
So just to follow up on that question, so the line of credit, it doesn't have to do, like if you already have a mortgage or something like that, that doesn't have to do with your mortgage, right? It's like separate from your mortgage and it's built based on your credit, right?
Correct. So,
Okay.
right. So it has nothing to do with your mortgage. This is you are taking out lines of credit to have cash. So rather than, if you don't want to have a loan, right? A loan, because lines of credit is something that you can put in and put out very easily, as opposed to putting a loan on your credit where it's just like, oh, I got to pay out this loan, $50,000 loan over however many years. You don't want that, because lines of credit is like a credit card. You can use it at any given time. So as you're trying to invest, you can take that money out, use it as short term, right? Remember that doing this is a short term thing. So you take that money out for it to be short term. You're done your project, you put that money back in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yes.
I thought so there's a difference between a line of credit and a home equity, like a HELOC, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we're not talking about a home equity loan.
okay, well, just on my regular. Okay, got it.
Right.
So
Now you can get that on a home. So you can get, that on a home, but I'm just talking about literally line of credit. You call your bank up, like, hey, I want a line of credit. You know what I mean? And that's what we're talking about. But you can get something that like that on a property. Yeah.
wait. So just to clarify, just to make sure that I followed everything.
We're talking about
The,
investing, guys. I'm not talking
right.
about for a regular house and all that other stuff.
That's what I wanted to double check. So it's for people that are going in as investors. They're trying to get like a rental property or of some sort or whatever. So it's not for
Correct.
first time homeowners. That line of credit does not exist for them.
Nope.
Just wanted to make sure everyone knows we're all clear.
Awesome.
Correct.
And yeah, there's another question in the chat. It says, is the interest low on the line of credit?
It depends. It depends on where you go. It depends on your bank. I would suggest credit unions. You want to use credit unions And it depends on the bank. If you can get around, I think I've gotten like around 7%, which is not bad at all. It just depends on where your credit are is. But I definitely suggest credit unions. Credit unions.
So I have a follow-up question to that. Now that we understand that this is for investing. So I know someone had originally asked, is it better to invest using your own name or using an LLC? So in this case, would I be, banking on the companies or the LLC's, credit score,
Nope,
or am I using my individual credit
nope,
score?
nope. Not
Ah,
to
okay,
start.
yeah.
It's
Gotta
all
ask.
you. It's
It's
all
gonna be
You'd
on
have
the
to have
so it's gonna be
business
on the
credit to use
individual.
that. Yeah.
the lines of credit is all on you, right? So again, we're talking about starting, right? So when you're starting, no, your business doesn't have credit. Now there are I think Capital One makes it fairly easy for you to get like a business credit card, which can be very useful, you know what I mean, and building and starting to build your business credit. But no, you know what I mean, you're going to have, it's a risk, right? So the great thing about real estate investing is that it's not as volatile as if you're trying to invest in stocks, right? And trying to figure that out. And that's like calculus and trigonometry and all that other stuff, right? And depending on, when you're trying to like really like trade, day trade and like go back and forth. If you're just a person that's just trying to do the, what SP 500 and stuff like that, that's fine. But if you're trying to really get into investing like that, where it's making you, goo gobs of money, it's hard. Like you really gotta, study that. But real estate, it's not, it's more safe from the standpoint of, now there is some risk, because like with everything there is some risk, right? So you're taking out these lines of credit and stuff like that, and the hope is that you're able to put that stuff back in, right? Which you will, because at the end of the day, if you make $2, you know on a flip, at least you started, at least you did it, and you're still making enough to, give back, what you put out, right? So at the very least, if you don't make a whole bunch of money on the first one, you have the experience of doing it. Now, if you're, I know coaches and real estate coaches and stuff like that that can help and guide you along the process and stuff like that, if that's more comfortable. But I'm gonna tell you now, they'll tell, listen, lines of credit, let's go. Let's get started. And you can partner with somebody that can help you in the process. So you don't have to feel as though you're doing it on your own and like, oh my God, I got my, credit out here. I got it on the line. But you do enough of this over a couple of, 2 years or so, you'll have enough to build a business, credit.